harmful and addictive.
We need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. It's a social validation feedback loop. It's exactly the kind of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with, because you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. And I think that the inventors, creators, and it's me, it's Mark, it's Kevin Systrom at Instagram, it's all of these people, understood this consciously, and we did it anyway.
This is a bombshell. Imagine if the Sackler family, makers of the painkiller OxyContin, admitted they knew their product was likely to addict millions of Americans to opiates, but, quote, did it anyway. Now, that's pretty much exactly what happened with OxyContin, by the way. But so far, the Sacklers have been wise enough not to say so in public. Sean Parker isn't quite so guarded. In his conversation with Axios, Parker repeatedly describes Facebook like an addictive drug, which, of course, functionally it is. When he and his partners designed their product, Parker says they kept one question in mind, quote, how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible? The answer they found was with a steady stream of dopamine hits to your brain in the form of likes, comments, and new posts. Parker acknowledges Facebook has become an epidemic that is devastating this country. Quote, it literally changes your relationship with society and each other, he said. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. Let that sink in. Imagine how you would feel if you actually believed you had injured the brains of millions of children. Sean Parker does not seem especially concerned by this. In fact, in his interview with Axios, he brags about how rich it has made him. Quote, because I'm a billionaire, I'm going to have better access to health care, Parker said. I'm going to be like 160, and I'm going to be part of this class of immortal overlords. You know the expression about compound interest? Give us billionaires an extra 100 years, and you'll know what wealth disparity looks like. The tobacco executives suddenly look decent by comparison. Yet, unlike the heads of Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds and Laura Lard, Sean Parker and Mark Zuckerberg have not been hauled before Congress to account for themselves and what they've done. Why is that exactly? You'd hate to think it's because Silicon Valley gives far more money to politicians than the cigarette makers ever did, but who knows? Maybe there's a connection. We'll start asking members of Congress about it. And that's not the only newsworthy behavior from Facebook this week. The company is also considering a bizarre plan to have users send them nude pictures of themselves. We're going to let Trace Gallagher handle the details on that. Trace?
Hi, Tucker. Studies show that 4% of Internet users have become victims of revenge porn. For women under 30, it's 10%. And the experts say the reason so many ex and angry partners post revenge porn on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter is because it hits close to home, meaning the pictures are accessible to family and friends. So Facebook is launching a pilot program beginning in Australia to help victims fight back. Here's the deal. If you've ever shared nude or sexual images with a partner and you're afraid someday they'll end up on the web, you can send those same images to yourself on Messenger, and then Facebook will go in and make a digital fingerprint of each picture and automatically block any attempt to upload that same image. But there's a catch, and it's a big one. Before Facebook can block your nude pictures, they have to look at your nude pictures. Turns out a crew of specially trained Facebook employees view all the pics, decide if they qualify as revenge porn, and then add the digital fingerprint. Facebook will then keep the pictures on file for an undisclosed amount of time before deleting them. Facebook security says, quote, we are aware that having people self-report their images carries risk, but it's a risk we are trying to balance against the serious real-world harm that occurs every day when people, mostly women, can't stop non-consensual, intimate imagery from being posted. Of course, analysts point out that social media companies are just as vulnerable to being hacked as anybody else, which is why experts say the only safe nude photos are the ones that are not taken. Tucker.
Trace Gallagher, thanks a lot. Send naked pictures of yourself to Facebook. Don't do that, by the way. Eric Schiffer is a social media expert and founder of reputationmanagementconsultants.com, and he joins us tonight. Eric, thanks a lot for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you. Nice to be with you.
So there is mounting evidence science has produced mounting evidence that some of the products that Silicon Valley produces hurt people, particularly children, and that there appears to be a direct connection between the time people spend using these products and the condition of their mental health. I'm wondering what Silicon Valley is doing about that. I don't see them doing anything about it, and I'm confused.
Well, you know, I think that those are certainly valid concerns that some have raised in aspects of the community. But there's a whole other side of Facebook, and I think that that's just one. I mean, you can make many of these same arguments with respect to television. You can make them certainly with respect to music. I mean, we've heard these arguments before in history, there's no question. And the truth is, I mean, even a show like yours that's captivating, it's interesting, I mean, it's designed to hold. It's designed to capture people and make them stick, and it does, and it does it well.
If only. I mean, my show and cable news has not totally reordered our society, and I mean, you heard Sean Parker say it. It totally changes the way people deal with one another.
Liberals would think so.
Well, it's not just it's not a liberal conservative thing. Here's the truth. This stuff came out of nowhere, this technology, fewer than 20 years ago, and changed the way we live completely. These are the richest people in our society. They have almost unlimited assets, and they seem to have spent almost no time figuring out what effects their products have on people. And that just seems irresponsible to me, or perhaps I'm missing something.
Well, look, it's capitalism, okay? And I think that when the goal is in any kind of media, and this is a media entity, if you will, it's all about holding people. It's all about capturing people, whether it's television, it's movies, it's music, and I think they have figured it out. But in the brain,
wait, hold on.
it's
Why
the
is
same
that different?
effects.
I mean, first of all, I love how liberals are now defending unrestrained market capitalism because they're profiting from it. But how is that different from selling crack cocaine or heroin? I mean, that's just capitalism, and the whole point is to get people engaged. And so, like, why do you care what the effect is on them? And there's not really an answer, is it?
Well, I think it's certainly an interesting debate. I mean, where do you draw the line? Because you can make the argument that almost anything that holds people and captures people that may have any effect in that way could be negative. And so no one's advocating for drugs. There's no question about that.
Well, but wait a second. Here the guy who created the product saying is we knew that this was addictive, we knew it hurt people, and we did it anyway. So we've created this class of child billionaires who apparently knew they were hurting the population when they created the product. I don't understand why there isn't a congressional hearing about this. I mean, if this was a drug, there would be.
Well, I understand, but then what about movies? What about violent video games? Where do you draw the line, Tucker? And so I guess my point in all of this is that when you have a platform like Facebook or television or music, et cetera, you have to also balance it against the social good. I mean, when you consider Facebook, that's allowed democracy to thrive. I mean, in the Middle East, it took down regimes that were against America. I know the
talking points. But I'm not saying it has no redeeming social value. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that underneath the ad copy that you're repeating and the propaganda is another side, and that it appears to have a deleterious effect on the mental health of kids. And I just don't see the people profiting from this taking that seriously at all. Look, if I own a casino, there's an upside to casinos, but I also have to put money aside to fund help for people who are hurt by my products. Same with the cigarette makers, same with the liquor distributors. Why is Silicon Valley exempt just because they give a ton of money to politicians?
Well, I don't think Silicon Valley is exempt, and I don't think that anyone is suggesting that they are. There's no question that no one wants to hurt children, certainly myself, anyone that cares about kids or cares about this country.
Research? How much is Mark Zuckerberg, one of the richest people in human history, how much is he spending to determine the effect of his product on children, and then to help the children who his product is hurting? Is he spending? How much is he spending on that, do you think?
Well, but the same argument is true of television and radio and
television's been around for 70 years. Music. We've got a pretty good handle on what television does, and I wouldn't defend a lot of it. But the internet is a totally different experience, and we don't know actually what the effects are. And the point is, these guys don't care because they're greedy, actually. And you just had one of them saying, oh, yeah, we're hurting people, but, you know, I'm a billionaire, and I'm going to live to 160. Like, what? Why is that okay? That's horrifying behavior, don't you think?
I don't think what you're referencing in terms of a general sense anyone would say is okay. What I think we're trying to do is balance the totality of everything. I mean, for instance, with conservatives, for instance,
Right.
You know, it's possible that without Facebook, Donald Trump wouldn't have been elected president. I mean, the digital director of Trump's campaign as much said the case. So, and conservatives also are using Facebook to thwart
but again,
the
it's
mainstream
not a
media.
Thing. I mean, and I think Facebook is probably great in Burma. There are lots of things about Facebook that I like. I'm not. I think there's an upside to Facebook. I'm merely saying there appears to be a massive downside that the company itself is ignoring. There's an upside to cigarettes. They're fun to smoke. They kill you after a while. Do you know what I mean? It's not that there's nothing good about it. It's that there's clearly something really bad about it that the company is hiding.
Yeah. I don't think there's an upside to cigarettes, in my opinion. But I think that. Yeah, I do see your point, absolutely. And I think that also I see the other side. I also see the fact that there's been so much positive, and we have to balance it. That's not to say that Facebook should not be spending more to protect kids, to keep bullying away.
Anything?
And frankly, I think they have done a nice job in that regard.
Bullying displaces the responsibility from themselves onto their consumers. They're saying people are misusing our product. Maybe use of the product itself hurts people. Maybe we should do some research on this. Maybe they should sit in the hot seat in Congress and ask some real questions. But whatever.
Well, I think that's an interesting point. But
Yeah.
Tucker, imagine without a Facebook. But imagine without a Facebook.
Well, I grew up without a Facebook.
Where would conservatives
it was actually
be?
kind of a happy world. No,
but
you know
what would they be?
I was pretty happy before Facebook, I got to say, as far as I remember.
But you yourself benefit from it. You yourself benefit from it. I mean, you use it every day.
Doesn't mean there's not a downside. So let's just stop lying and get to the heart of it, to the facts. Thank you, Eric. Tom Kirsting is a psychotherapist and author of Disconnected, How to Reconnect Your Digitally Distracted Kids. There's a title every parent can relate to, and he joins us now. So, Tom, what do we know, and I know this research is in its infancy, but about the effect of social media and screen time on kids?
Well, I could tell you, I've got a litany of information in my book, research-based, and anecdotally, as a therapist, this is basically all I deal with nowadays. I would say I have probably twice as many middle school-age kids with major anxiety disorders this year alone in the previous 17 years combined. And I could tie it to social media, electronics, and so forth to a T.
Okay, so you know, I'm 48, so not that old, but I grew up at a time when none of this existed, and it's very obvious, and I'm sure you have the same experience, to me, that a lot has changed. It is not related to our political system or our economy. Something fundamental has changed. How do you draw the connection? Why are you so certain that it's digital media that is doing it?
Well, if you look at it like this, take a kid today. They have a front row ticket to every second of their peers' lives. We didn't have that. We didn't know what our friends were doing down the road. So you give a kid who's a pre-adolescent or an adolescent, and by nature is trying to figure out who he or she is, where they exist in a social pecking order, and now you give them this weapon of mass destruction called a smartphone, and now they're getting feedback constantly, fueling their self-esteem. But it's actually not helping their self-esteem. Because last time I checked, the word self-esteem starts with the word self, not others. And they're getting all of this feedback. And it's really, really destroying our kids. And they're spending 9 hours a day using this stuff. And 9 hours a day of anything, I don't care if it's exercise, even 9 hours of exercise is going to be good for you.
No, that's I think, a wise and true point. So what do you think when you see one of the people who created this product, Facebook, bragging both that he knew it hurt people, he knew it was addictive, but he doesn't care because now he's a billionaire and you're not? Could the leader of any other industry get away with that?
I don't think so. And it's funny because when I give these lectures, I liken this stuff to the tobacco industry back in the day.
Yes.
And how this stuff, and I think we're going to start seeing in the next 3 to 5 years, major shifts going on in our society as this stuff continues to reveal itself. I've been lecturing about this since 2009, so sometimes I feel like I'm the only person out there talking to parents and giving them the information that they need so that they can save their kids. This stuff's stripping us from our relationships with our children as well, because we got our heads down, and every time we catch the moment on our phone, we're missing the moment. We're missing a milestone with our children.
Let me just ask you finally a meta question. This is happening to every person watching right now knows exactly what you're talking about because we're all living it.
Yep.
How is it that 320 million people can be having the exact same experience that's clearly bad and nobody says anything about it? Why isn't this a constant topic of conversation?
It's called social conformity. And if you know what that is, I'm sure you do. Social conformity means we tend to just go like the flock of the birds. If we see everybody else has something, oh, you know what? Every other fourth grader has a smartphone now, so I think I'll get one for my child. Yet in the back of our mind, we know that it's dangerous. So we need to do something. That's why I wrote this book.
Amen. Groupthink is a term we use.